Hi friends, I am Uday Kandpal and I welcome you back to yet another lecture on NCERT Class 8 History Chapter 12 with fact elaboration by Uday Kandpal. The name of the chapter is India After Independence. So let's start. So, a new and a divided nation. When India became independent in August 1947, it faced a series of very great challenges as a result of partition. 8 million refugees had come to country what has now become Pakistan. These people had to be found homes and jobs. Then there was a problem of princely states, almost 500 of them, each ruled by a Maharaja or a Nawab, each of whom had to be persuaded to join a new nation. The problems of the refugees and of the princely states had to be addressed immediately. In the longer term, the new nation had to adopt a political system that would be best to serve the hopes and expectation of its population. India's population in 1947 was large, almost 345 million. It was also divided. There were divisions between high caste and the low caste, between the majority Hindu community and the Indian who practiced other faiths. The citizens of this vast land spoke many of the different languages, wore many of the different kinds of dress, ate different kinds of food, and practiced different professions. How could they be made to live together in one nation state? To the problem of unity was added problem of development. At independence, the vast majority of Indians lived in the villages. Farmers and peasants dependent on the monsoon for their survival. So did the non-farm sectors of the rural economy. For if the crops failed, barbers, carpenters, weavers, and other services groups would not get paid or to the services either. In cities, factory workers lived in crowded slums and little access to education or healthcare. Clearly, a new nation had to be left its masses out of poverty by increasing the productivity of agriculture and promoting new job creating industries. Unity and development had to go hand in hand. If divisions between the different sections of India were not healed, they could result in violent and costly conflicts, high caste fighting with low caste, Hindus with Muslims, and so on. At the same time, in fruits of economic development did not reach the broad masses of the population, it could create fresh divisions, for example, between rich and the poor, and between cities and the countryside, regions of India that were prosperous and regions that lagged behind. Constitution of India. The Constitution of India, or the Bharatiya Samvidhan, is supreme law of India. The document lays down the framework demarcating the fundamental political code, structure, procedures, powers, and duties of the government institutions, and sets out fundamental rights, directive principles, and the duties of the citizens. It is also the longest written constitution of any country on the earth. B.R. Ambedkar, chairman of the drafting committee, is widely considered to be the chief architect. It imparts constitutional supremacy, not parliamentary supremacy, since it was created by a constituent assembly rather than a parliament, and was adopted by the people with a declaration in its preamble. Parliament cannot override the constitution. It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 26 November 1949 and became effective on 26 January 1950. The Constitution replaced the Government of India Act of 1935 as the country's fundamental governing document, and the Dominion of India became the Republic of India. To ensure the constitutional autonomy, its farmers repealed prior acts of the British Parliament. So, in the Article 395, India celebrates its constitution on 26 January as Republic Day. The Constitution declares India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, assuring its citizens justice, equality, and liberty, and endeavors to promote fraternity. The original 1950 Constitution is preserved in the helium-filled case at the Parliament House in New Delhi. The word secular and socialist were added to the preamble in 1976 during emergency. So let's talk about some Indian states formation. Andhra Pradesh was formed on the Andhra Pradesh Day on 1 November 1956 before foundation, part of Andhra state and the Hyderabad state, and note it was founded by the States Reorganization Act of 1956. Then Arunachal Pradesh Foundation Day is called as Arunachal Pradesh Day. It was formed on 20 February 1987, and before foundation it was a part of Arunachal Pradesh Union Territory. It was created as a union territory by Northeastern Areas Reorganization Act of 1971, converted to a state by a State of Arunachal Pradesh Act of 1986. Assam. Foundation Day is Assam Day. Date is 2 December. Year is 2028. It was a part of Kamrup Kingdom before foundation, and then founded as Ahom Kingdom reorganization. It's North-East Frontier Province in the 1874, Eastern Bengal and Assam in the 1905, Assam and Province in 1912, achieved in the statehood in 1950. Bihar was formed on Bihar Day On 22nd March 1912, before foundation, part of the Bengal province, British India, founded as Bihar and Odisha province, reorganized as Bihar province in 1936, achieved in the statehood in 1950. Chhattisgarh Day, November 1 November 2000, part of the Madhya Pradesh, founded by the Madhya Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2000. Goa Day, 30 May 1987, part of the Goa, Daman and Diu, part of the Goa, Daman and Diu, founded by the State of Goa Act of 1986. Gujarat Day, 1 May 1960, part of the Bombay State, note founded by the Bombay Reorganization Act of 1960. Haryana State, Haryana Day, 1 November 1966, part of the East Punjab, founded by the Punjab Reorganization Act of 1966. Himachal Pradesh Foundation Day is Himachal Pradesh Day. Date is 15 April 1948. Part of the princely states of former Punjab State Agency, founded by Himachal Pradesh Administrative Order as 1948 as Himachal Pradesh Province, reorganized as Himachal State Part C State in 1950. Himachal Pradesh Union Territory Act in 1956, archived statehood in 1971. Then Jharkhand Day, 15 November 2000, part of Bihar, founded by the Bihar Organization Act of 2000. Then Karnataka, Kerala and Madhya Pradesh were formed on 1 November. The Karnataka and Kerala were formed on 1 November 1956, whereas Madhya Pradesh was formed on 1 November 1950. And the foundation day was Karnataka is Karnataka Day, the foundation day for Kerala is Kerala Day, and Madhya Pradesh is Madhya Pradesh Day. So before foundation, Karnataka was a part of Bombay State, Coorg State, Hyderabad State, and Mysore State, founded by the States Reorganization Act of 1956 as Mysore State, renamed Karnataka in 1973. Kerala was a part of Madras State and Travancore Cochin, founded by the States Reorganization Act of 1956. Madhya Pradesh was formed part of Central Province and Berar, princely state of Makrai, and for princely states of the former Eastern States and Agency, achieved statehood in 1950. Then state is Maharashtra. Foundation day is Maharashtra Day. Date is 1 May 1960. For before foundation is part of the Bombay State. Note that foundation by Bombay Reorganization Act of 1960. State Manipur Day, 21 February 1972. Manipur Union Territory, founded by the Northeastern Areas Reorganization Act of 1971. Meghalaya Day, 21 January 1972. Part of Assam, founded by the Northeastern Reorganization Act of 1971. Mizoram on Mizoram Day, 20 February 1987. Mizoram Union Territory, created as a union territory by Northeastern Areas of Reorganization Act 1971, converted to a state by the State of Mizoram Act of 1986. Nagaland Day, 1 December 1963. Nagaland Union Territory, founded by the State of Nagaland Act of 1962. Odisha State, Odisha Day, 1 April 1936, part of Bihar and Odisha Province of British India, founded by Odisha Province in 1936, achieved statehood in 1950, renamed Odisha in 2011. Punjab was formed on Punjab Day, 1 November 1966, part of East Punjab, founded by the Punjab Reorganization Act of 1966. Rajasthan was formed on Rajasthan Day, date 30 March 1949, part of the princely states of the former Rajputana Agency, achieved statehood in 1950. Sikkim was formed on Sikkim Day, date was 16 May 1975. Kingdom of Sikkim, founded by the 36th Amendment of the Constitution of India Act in 1975. Tamil Nadu was formed on Tamil Nadu Day, 1 November 1956, part of the Madras State and the Travancore Cochin Foundation, founded by the States Reorganization Act of 1956 as a Madras State, renamed as Tamil Nadu in 1969. Telangana Day was formed on 2 June 2014, part of the Andhra Pradesh, founded by the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2014. Tripura was formed on Tripura Day. Date was 21 January 1972. Before foundation, Tripura Union Territory, founded by the Northeastern Areas of the Organization Act of 1971. Uttar Pradesh was formed on Uttar Pradesh Day. Date was 25 January 1950. United Provinces achieved statehood in 1950. Uttarakhand was formed on Uttarakhand Day, 9 November 2000, part of the Uttar Pradesh, founded by the Uttar Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2000, as Uttaranchal renamed the Uttarakhand in 2007. West Bengal was formed on West Bengal Day, 20 June 1947, part of the Bengal Province, British India, achieved statehood in 1950. planning of India 5-year plans. So 5-year plans are centralized and integrated national economic programs. Joseph Stalin implemented the first 5-year plan in the Soviet Union in 1928. Most communist states and several capitalist countries subsequently have adopted them. China continues to use FYPs through the China renamed its 11th FYP from 2006 to 2010 a guideline GUA rather than a planned GUA to signify the central government's more hands-off approach to development. India launched its first FYP in 1951, immediately after the independence, under the socialist influence of the India's Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. The first 5-year plan was the one of the most important because it had the great role in launching of the Indian development after independence. Thus, it strongly supported agriculture production and launched the industrialization of the country, but less than the second plan, which focused on the heavy industries. It built a particular system of mixed economy with a great role of the public sector as well as the growing private sector, represented by the personalities those who published the Bombay Plan. The first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru presented the first 5-year plan to the Parliament of India and needed urgent attention. The 5-year plan was launched in 1951 as mainly focused in the development of primary sector. The first 5-year plan was based on the Harod-Damar model with a few modifications. The total planned budget of 2069 crores was allocated to the 7 broad areas of irrigation and energy, 27.2% agriculture and community of development, 17.4% transport and communication, 24% industry, 8.4% and social services, 16.6%. Rehabilitation of landless laborers 4.1%, and for the other sectors 2.5%. The most important feature of the phase was active role of the state in all economic sectors. Such a role was justified at that time because immediately after the most important feature of this phase was active role of the state in all economic sectors. Such a role was justified at that time because and immediately after independence, India was facing basic problems, deficiency of capital and low capacity to save. The target growth rate was 2.1% annual gross domestic product GDP growth. The achieved growth rate was 3.6%. The net domestic product went up by 15%. The monsoon was good and there was relatively high crop yields, boosting exchange reserves and the per capita income, which increased by 8%. National income increased more than the per capita income due to the rapid population growth. Many irrigation projects were initiated during the period, including the Bhakra, Hirakud, Metur, and Damodar Valley dams. The World Health Organization (WHO), with the Indian government, addressed the children's health and reduced the infant mortality rate, indirectly contributing to the population growth. At the end of the planned period in 1956, 5 Indian institutes of technology were stated as major technical institutions. The University Grants Commission was set up to take care of funding and take measures to strengthen the higher education in the country. Contracts were signed to start 5 steel plants, which came into existence in the middle of the second 5-year plan. The plan was so quasi-successful for the government. Second plan 1956 to 1961. The second plan focused on the development of the public sector and rapid industrialization. The plan followed the Mahabharat model of economic development model developed by the Indian statistician Prasant Chandra Mahalanobis in 1953. The plan attempted to determine the optimal allocation of the investment between the productive sectors in the order to maximize long-run economic growth. It used the prevalent state-of-the-art of techniques of operation, research, and optimization, as well as novel applications of statistical models developed in the Indian Statistical Institute. The plan assumed a closed economy in which the main trading activity would be centered on importing capital goods. Hydroelectric power projects and the 5 steel plants at Bhilai, Durgapur, and Rourkela were established with the help of Russia, Britain, and the UK, the West Germany, respectively. Coal production was increased. More railway lines were added in the northeast. The Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and the Atomic Energy Commission of India were established as research institutes. In 1957, a talent search and the scholarship program was begun to find talented young students to train for the work in the nuclear power. The total amount allocated under the second 5-year plans in the India was rupees 48 billion. This amount was allocated among various sectors: power and irrigation, social services, communications and transport, and miscellaneous. The second plan was a period of rising prices. The country was also faced foreign exchange crisis. The rapid growth in the population slowed down the growth in the per capita income. The target growth rate was 4.5% and the actual growth rate was 4.27%. The plan was criticized by the classical liberal economist B.R. Shenoy, who noted that the plan's dependence on the deficit financing to promote heavy industrialization was recipe in trouble. Shenoy argued that the state control of the economy would undermine a young democracy India faced an external payments crisis in 1957, which is viewed as a confirmation of the Shenoy's argument. The third five-year plan stressed agriculture and improvement in the production of wheat, but the brief Sino-Indian War of the 1962 exposed the weaknesses in the economy and shifted the focus towards the defense industry and the Indian Army. In the 1965-1966, India fought a war with the Pakistan. There were also severe droughts in 1965. The war led to inflation, and the priority was shifted to price stabilization. The construction of dams continued, many cements and fertilizers plants were also built. Punjab began producing an abundance of wheat. Many primary schools were also started in rural areas in an effort to bring democracy to the grassroots level. Panchayat elections were started and states were given more in development responsibilities. State electricity boards and state secondary education boards were formed. States were made responsible for secondary and higher education. State road transportation corporations were formed, and the local road building became a state responsibility. The target growth rate was 5.6%, but the actual growth rate was 2.4%. Fourth plan, at this time Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister. The Indira Gandhi government nationalized 14 major Indian banks, and the Green Revolution in India advanced agriculture. In addition, the situation in the East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, was becoming a dire as Indo-Pakistan of 1971 and Bangladesh Liberation War took funds embarked on the industrial development. India also performed a Smiling Buddha underground nuclear test Pokhran-1 in the Rajasthan on 18 May 1974, partially in the response to the United States deployment in the 7th Fleet of the Bay of Bengal. The fleet had been deployed to warn India against attacking West Pakistan and extending the war. The target growth rate was 5.6%, but the actual growth rate was 3.3%. The fifth plan, 1974 to 1978, the fifth five-year plan laid stress on the employment, poverty alleviation, Garibi Hatao, and justice. The plan also focused on self-reliance in agriculture, production, and defense. In 1978, the newly elected Morarji Desai government rejected the plan. The Electricity Supply Act was amended in 1975, which enabled the central government to enter into the power generation and transmission. The Indian National Highway System was introduced in many roads, widened to accommodate the increasing traffic. Tourism had also expanded. The 20-point program was launched in 1975. It was followed from 1974 to 1979. The Minimum Needs Program (MNP) was introduced in the first year of the fifth five-year plan, 1974 to 78. The objective of the program is to provide certain basic minimum needs and therefore improve the living standards of the people. It is prepared and launched by DP Dhar. The target growth rate was 4.4% and actual growth rate was 4.8%. So, rolling plan of 1978 and 1980. Janata Party government rejected the fifth five-year plan and introduced a sixth five-year plan 1978 to 1980. This plan was again rejected by the Indian National Congress government in 1980, and a new sixth plan was made. The rolling plan consisted of three kinds of plans that were proposed. The first plan was the present year, which comprised the annual budget, and the second was a plan of a fixed number of years, which may be 3, 4, or 5 years. The second plan kept changing as per as the requirement of the Indian economy. The third plan was a perspective plan for a long term, that is, the 10, 15, or 20 years. Hence, there was no fixation of dates at the commencement and termination of plans in the rolling plans. The main advantage of the rolling plans was that they were flexible and were able to overcome the rigidity of fixed five-year plans by amending targets. The object of the exercise projections and allocations as per as the changing conditions of the country's economy. The main disadvantage of this plan was that if the targets were revised each year, it became difficult to achieve the targets laid down in the five-year plan and period, and it turned out to be complex plan. Also, the frequent revisions resulted in the lack of stability in the economy. Sixth plan 1980 to 1985. The sixth five-year plan marked the beginning of economic liberalization. Price controls were eliminated and the ration shops were closed. This led to an increase in the food prices and an increase in the cost of living. This was the end of Nehruvian socialism. The National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development was established for the development of rural areas on the 12th July 1982 by the recommendation of the Shiv Raman Committee. Family planning was also expanded in the order to prevent overpopulation, in contrast to the China's strict and the binding one-child policy. Indian policy did not rely on that threat of force. More prosperous areas of India adopted family planning more rapidly than less prosperous areas, which continued to have a high birth rate. Military five-year plans became coterminous with planning commission's plan from his plan onwards. The sixth five-year plans was a great success to the Indian economy. The large growth rate was the 5.2% and the actual growth rate was 5.7%. Seventh Plan, 1985 to 1990. The seventh five-year plan was led by the Congress Party with the Rajiv Gandhi as Prime Minister. This plan laid stress on the improving and productive level of the industries by upgrading of technology. The main objective of the seventh five-year plan were to establish the growth in the areas of increasing economic productivity, production of food grains, and generating employment through social justice. As an outcome of sixth five-year plan, there had been steady growth in agricultural controls on the rate of inflation and the favorable balance of payments, which had provided a strong base for the seventh five-year plan to build on the need for a further economic growth. The seventh plan had strived towards socialism and energy production at large. The thrust areas of the seventh five-year plan were social justice, removal of oppression of weak using modern technology, agricultural development, anti-poverty programs, full supply of food, clothing and shelter, increasing productivity of small and large-scale farmers, and making India an independent economy. Based on 15-year period of thriving towards a steady growth, the seventh plan was focused on the achieving the prerequisites of the self-sustaining growth by the year 2000. The plan expected the labor force to grow by 39 million people, and the employment was expected to grow at the rate of 4% per year. Annual plans, the eighth plan could not take off in 1990 due to the fast changing economic situation at the center, and the years 1990 to 1991 and 1991 to 1992 were treated as annual plans. The eighth plan was finally formulated for the year 1992 to 1997. Eighth plan. The 1989 to 91 was a period of economic instability in India, and hence no five-year plan was implemented. Between 1890 and 1992, there were only annual plans. In 1991, India faced a crisis in foreign exchange. Forex reserves left with the reserves of only about US $1 billion. Thus, under the pressure, the country took the risk of conforming the socialist economy. P.V. Narasimha Rao was the ninth Prime Minister of Republic of India and the head of Congress Party, and led to the most important administrations in the Indian modern history, overseeing the major economic transformation and several incidents affecting the administrations in India. National security. At that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh, later Prime Minister of India, launched India's free market reforms that brought the nearly bankrupt nation back from the edge. It was beginning of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. LPG in India. Modernization of industries was a major highlight of the eighth plan. Under this plan, the gradual opening of the Indian economy was undertaken to correct the burgeoning deficit and the foreign debt. Meanwhile, India would become a member of the World Trade Organization on 1 January 1995. The major objective included the controlling population growth, poverty reduction, employment generation, strengthening of infrastructure, institutional building, tourism management, human resource development, involvement of Panchayati Raj, Nagar Palikas, NGOs, and decentralization and people's participation. Energy was given priority with 26.6% of outlay. The target growth rate was 5.6% and the actual growth rate was 6.8%. To achieve the target of an average of 5.6% per annum, the investment of 23.2% of the gross domestic product was required. The incremental capital ratio is 4.1. The saving of the investment was to come from the domestic resources and foreign sources, with the rate of domestic saving at 21.6% of the gross domestic production and of the foreign saving at the 1.6% of the gross domestic production. The ninth five-year plan came after the 50 years of Indian independence. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of India during the ninth plan. The ninth plan tried to primarily use the latent and unexplored economic potential of the country to promote economic and social growth. It was offered a strong support to the social spheres of the country in an effort to achieve the complete elimination of poverty. The satisfactory implementation of the eighth five-year plan also ensured the state's ability to proceed on the path for faster development. The ninth five-year plan also saw the joint efforts from the public and the private sectors in ensuring the economic development of the country. In addition, the ninth five-year plan saw contribution towards the development from the general public as well as the governmental agencies in both the rural and the urban areas of the countries. New implementation measures in the form of a special action plan SAPs were evolved during the ninth plan to fulfill the targets within the stipulated time with adequate resources. The SAPs covered the areas of social infrastructure, agriculture, information technology, and water policy. The 10th plan. The main objectives of the 10th five-year plan attains the 8% GDP growth rate per year, reduction of poverty rate by 5% by 2007, providing the gainful and high-quality employment at least to the addition of the labor force, reduction in the gender gaps in the literacy and the wage rates by the at least 50% by 2007. 20-point program was introduced, target growth 8.1%. Growth achieved 7.7%. The turn plan was expected to follow a regional approach rather than a sectoral approach to bring down the regional inequalities. Expenditure of the 43,825 crore rupees, $6.1 billion for 10 5 years. Out of the total outlet, 921,291,291 crore, that's US 130 billion. 57.9% was for central government, and the 6,91,009 crore, that is 97 billion, was for the states and the union territories. It was a period of Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister. It aimed to increase enrollment in higher education of 18 to 23 years of age group by year 2012 to 11 to 12. It focused on distant education, convergence of the formal and non-formal and distant and IT education institutions, rapid and inclusive growth, poverty reduction, emphasis on the social sector and delivery of service therein, empowerment through education and skill development, reduction of the gender inequality, environmental sustainability, to increase the growth rate of agriculture, industry and the service to 4%, 10%, 9% respectively, reduce total fertility rate to 2.1, provide a clean drinking water for all by 2009, increasing agriculture growth to 4%. The 12th plan. The 12th five-year plan of the Government of India had been decided to achieve a growth rate of 8.2%. The National Developmental Council on the 27th December 2012 approved a growth rate of 8% for the 12th plan. Within the deteriorating global condition, the Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission, Mantek Singh Ahluwalia, has said that achieving an average growth rate of 9% in the next 5 years is not possible. The final growth rate has been set to 8% by the endorsement of the plan at the National Developmental Council meeting held in the New Delhi. It's not possible to think an average of 9% in 12th plan. I think somewhere between 8 to 8.5% is feasible. Ahluwalia said the sidelines of a conference of the state planning boards and departments. The approach paper for 12th plan approved last year talked about an annual average growth rate of 9%. When I say feasible, that will require major effort. If you don't do that, there is no God given right to grow at 8%. I think, given that the world economy deteriorated very sharply over the last year, the growth rate in the first year of the 12th plan 2012 to 13, 6.5 to 7%. The objective of the 12th year plan were to create a 50 million New York opportunities in the non-farm sector, to remove gender and social gap in their social enrollment, to enhance access to the higher education, to reduce malnutrition among the children over 0 to 3 years, to provide electricity to all villages, to ensure that 50% of rural population have access to proper drinking water, to increase green cover by 1 million hectare every year, to provide access to the banking sectors to 90% of household. Thank you for going through my lecture. Hope you learned a lot for your competitive exam as well. Have a nice day. Bye bye.